welcome to TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. Today is Thursday, November 14th, and you are watching Brookline Interactive Group right here in the town of Brookline. And we have a great show for you today, as we do every week. Today, our guest is Tim Davis, the town of Brookline's Recreation Director. This is an interview we recorded about a week ago, and I encourage you to stay tuned for the totality of that interview. But first, as always, we begin with the news. United States officials are currently in Azerbaijan at COP29, discussing global climate policy. These officials are touting the Inflation Reduction Act as a key component to offset any actions the Trump administration may take. President-elect Trump continues to announce his nominations for key cabinet positions, including South Carolina Governor Kristi Noem as Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, and Fox News host Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. The Consumer Price Index rose at an annual rate of 2.6%, after September saw the lowest monthly rate in 3 years. Former Massachusetts Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira was sentenced to 15 years in prison on Tuesday for leaking classified military information about the war in Ukraine. Since the start of October, Massachusetts has experienced over 450 brush fires, burning over 1,500 acres. Residents are cautioned to refrain from outdoor burning, including campfires and fire pits, and are encouraged to conserve water during this drought. The Massachusetts Special Commission on Emergency Housing Assistance Programs released a preliminary report on Tuesday. The report offers a new vision for the state shelter system, including using existing state programs to help families with rental assistance and expanding the current affordable housing stock. Brookline girls volleyball advanced to the Division I state volleyball finals after winning a 5-set match over Acton Boxborough on Tuesday. Steps to Success and City Kids hosted a career pathways session last week with Brookline High students. The session shared insights into working in the real estate industry and helped prepare students for career successes. Brookline Library Director Amanda Hurst stepped down earlier this week. There's no word yet on the process to find her replacement. Folks, that's the news for the week. I encourage you to stay tuned. And on the flip side, we'll have a great conversation with Tim Davis, Brookline's Recreation Director. We're here at TV on TV. Stay tuned. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here on Brookline Interactive Group. Today, our guest is Tim Davis, the Director of Recreation for the town of Brookline. Tim, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we film this, the guests and I always chit-chat ahead of time. And I knew that Tim spent some time near where I grew up, but it turns out it's better than that. Tim, where are you from? What are you all about?
Brookfield, Connecticut, baby.
So I'm also from Brookfield, Connecticut, but I'm a little bit older. We talked about it. We probably know some people in common, but not too many. Tim, you grew up in Brookfield, great place to grow up, but then what?
So I grew up in Brookfield. I was there for over 20 years. And then when it was time to, figure out what I wanted to do, I drew on my experiences of growing up in the field of recreation and outdoors, and being with my community is what really held center for me. So when it was time for me to ship out, I went up to Springfield College, where I went to school for recreation management and business. And that's where I really learned and kind of sunk my teeth into the world of community recreation, and specifically municipal recreation. From there, when I graduated, I graduated at a tough time with the economy and decided to take the opportunity to just keep pursuing my education. So I went back down to Connecticut, to Southern Connecticut State University, where I went back to school for my master's in recreation and leisure supervision and leadership, while also working at multiple departments around where we were. I worked for Bethel, Connecticut, Parks and Recreation. I worked for Ridgefield Parks and Recreation, as well as doing some other part-time work to make ends meet. But about 2 days after I graduated with my master's, I moved up here. I got a place in Framingham and I actually started working for the town of Brookline as a recreation leader for this town as my first real full-time gig outside of school. And while I was here, I did the summer camp programs, I did the after-school program, the teen program, I ran the ice skating rink. So it was a all-encompassing position that really just solidified my love, I think, for this field and making sure affirming that I picked the right field. I had a wonderful time here. I was here for about 4 years doing this, and it was time for me to start pursuing more and elevating my career. So from Brookline, I went to Stoughton, Massachusetts, where I became their assistant director. I was there and then eventually director for about 4 years as well, where we really built a department from the ground up. It was a department of one, which was me as a full-timer. As assistant director, I had a part-time rec director, so it was a pretty unique setup. But we built a department from the ground up. We, started with 5 or 6 programs a session, and by the time I left, we had about 30 to 40 a session. So it was really an exercise in getting to know the community and ingraining yourself in the community. And once again, just elevated my love for the field. And after Stoughton, I got the opportunity to take over the town of Southborough, Mass, as their director. I was there for quite some time doing the same thing. Community events, everything from small 3-4 person group events to townwide community events with thousands. And I loved it. And I was, truthfully not looking to leave, but then the opportunity in Brookline opened again. And Brookline always held a special place in my life and really gave me my first exposure to this field. And this department is just special. It's special when it comes to the state. It's unique when it comes to the state of Massachusetts. And so I threw my hat in and I said, what do I have to lose? And, little do I know now, I'm sitting here, and it's, truthfully, it was a career goal for me to come back, and I'm back earlier than I expected, but I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it.
I love it. I love it. I want to just pick on something. Maybe there's something here, maybe there's not. Did you play youth sports in Brookfield?
I did not. So I took the alternative route with recreation. So I was a big music guy. I was a big theater guy. I was a snowboarder. I was a skateboarder. So I didn't do really the mainstream sports. I actually didn't really get into sports until high school. So I played high school lacrosse and golf when I got to that point. But growing up, yeah, I was, at the lake at my grandfather's house. I was skateboarding with my friends, riding bikes in the woods, and doing the down and dirty stuff when it comes to
It's interesting. So again, we grew up in the same town, about 10 years apart. I mean, I was a baseball, Pop Warner basketball guy, as were almost all of the boys and a good chunk of girls. Starting in kindergarten, first grade, right? I mean, in the town we grew up in, there were plenty of ball fields, and there was this sort of, you weren't required to play sports. It wasn't brutish or like testosterone fueled, but everyone played sports. It was really normal. And I remember in 4th grade having practice 3-4 times a week. I mean, it was pretty intensive. And that's frankly not what the culture is in Brookline today for a lot of different reasons. But I was curious, now that you've sort of, really seen Brookline from an administrative point of view, if you had observed much of that. Let's get into some stuff about Brookline. I alluded to it. As you know, ball field availability is challenging in Brookline. See, now you've got me. I'm going to be doing this for weeks now. I'm going to be making this mistake. In Brookline, ball field availability is challenging for a couple of reasons, right? We don't have nearly as many ball fields as there is demand, and people around Brookline certainly know land is expensive. We also have a tension in town between turf and grass. We have a tension in town between having lights on fields or not. We have high school sports. We have adult athletic programs. We have youth programs, but then we also have non-organized sport field users, dogs and their owners, sort of picnickers and all these other things. How do you manage this tension? How do you manage this high demand and low supply?
Yeah, I mean, you're illustrating it perfectly. It's quite the balancing act. I think that what we have. I think I will point out that a town like Brookline is so, I think, fortunate to have the amount of open space and the investment in open space and recreational spaces. That is just incredible to see. You know, our office is perched on a ball field and tennis courts and a playground, and this place is packed day in and day out. So it's wonderful. But it's, you know, it's a lesson, or it's an exercise in trying to be creative, I think, on a daily basis. You know, our department is in charge of permitting these fields. It's, you know, trying to determine, or doing our best to, or doing it, quite frankly, getting our residents on before these outside groups come in. So doing our best to ensure that the individuals responsible for allowing us to have these fields the way they are and these parks the way they are using them to the best of their ability and using them to the most that we can offer. But I think it's a lesson in patience as we, you know, continue. I think on a, you know, week in and week out, we talk about this topic with the Parks Department, with Public Works, on expanding our fields and looking for other open spaces, utilizing our fields in a unique way that's so, you know, maybe instead of one team using a field, we can get two on at the same time to ensure the maximum amount of kids are exposed and adults are exposed to these activities that they're looking for. So, you know, it's definitely a challenge. I think it's at the top of everybody's mind on this side of the house as we move through the years and we look ahead to the future. And it just, like I said, it just comes down to being as creative as we can to ensure the demand is met, and keeping our thumb on the pulse of the town to see what they want and see what comes available and what we can make of it.
Similarly, the town has an outdoor skating rink. There's certainly plenty of demand for skating. And the outdoor rink has had some real physical depreciation, right? The rink's gotten old, and that's meant that there's been challenges keeping ice on the rink. In parallel with climate change, I mean, look, it's November and we're still walking around in t-shirts. What is the status on skating availability in Brookline going forward? What do you envision as the future?
So that was one of the things that I was happy that was on my desk when I first came in about 7-8 months ago. So where we are right now is we've completed the feasibility studies, we've completed all the studies that have been approved towards this rink, and what we're going to be seeing at the next town meeting is that we've applied for Community Preservation Act funding to actually get some design plans and construction documents on the table for the rebuilding of the rink. The intention is to keep the rink where it is at Lars Anderson and to rebuild it on its footprint. So now we're actually moving towards that goal. So currently where we are right now, and again, working in conjunction with Parks and Open Space, those applications are going forward to the Community Preservation Act for funding at the next town meeting. And hopefully that means that if that's approved and we can get, you know, everything that we want out of that, the following town meeting will be hopefully going to everybody, to the community, with a plan of rebuilding that rink, hopefully utilizing community preservation funds, utilizing other grant funding that we are looking at to ensure that you know, this timetable is as small as possible before we can get a satisfactory facility up there that's going to serve our community for years and years to come properly.
And to be clear, the existing rink does not have a roof. It's exposed completely to the elements. Is the plan to keep that?
The plan is to keep that. The community, we heard the feedback loud and clear from the community that that rink is unique, as I think you and I both know, of its positioning up on the hill overlooking the city. So there's really nothing like skating out there under the stars on a nice, clear, cool night. So the intention is to keep it in the same setup, but to update the systems, you know, underneath the ground to ensure that that ice can stay cold and in good shape for as long as possible with the seasons.
And does that preclude an indoor rink that would be available much wider time periods and provide recreational opportunity for even more people?
Yeah, I don't think indoor is necessarily on the table right now. I know it was a discussion, but again, this goes back to our previous conversation of space. That's, you know, we have allocated to ourselves to be able to build something of that nature. We would love it. Obviously, the benefits are there, but when it comes down to space and cost, and again, the community feedback, you know, we listen to our residents most definitely, and you know, the biggest thing we heard is that they wanted to keep the feeling of what it was and rebuild it where it was. So that's where we're going for it.
Now, when we talk about rec, oftentimes folks initially think about middle schoolers, high schoolers, young people. And then they remember, oh yeah, well, adults, like to run around as well. I myself am in an adult soccer league, which means, I'm incredibly sore 2 days later. It's good sore, but it's definitely
Exactly.
sore.
Moving the
Uh,
body.
Sometimes people forget that, BREC is for everybody, and that includes seniors.
Yeah.
And I know that you all have some programs with seniors, which I'd love to hear about, but also, what are you thinking about going forward to engage with older adults in our community in recreation?
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think, one of the unique things about Brookline is when we look at our program suite, we do everything from, toddlers, 1 and 2 year olds at our Sewell Early Childhood Center, all the way up to our partnerships with seniors. So looking at that senior population specifically, we're actually in the process of kind of revamping that vision of what we see with our partnership with the Senior Center, with the Council on Aging. We're fortunate, we have a great partnership with them, and we work hand in hand with them. We do a lot of in-town and out-of-town trips for the seniors to expose them to kind of unique opportunities, whether that just be nature walks and nature preserves or going to a play. Right now, we're doing a trip to New York City over the winter for a shopping trip, things of that nature. But we're really looking at it, what can we provide as a rec department for our seniors outside of trips? So one of the things that we're looking at is a wellness initiative, so doing more wellness programs with the senior center, working with their staff to see how they can leverage our resources just as much as we can leverage theirs. And really, again, looking more internally of what we can offer on site, just instead of saying, okay, we have a van, let's get everybody in and go do something fun. So more wellness, more I think life skills, lifestyle type programming, to really connect that community and our community as a whole as much as possible.
Trips to the casino?
I mean, I wouldn't be against it.
Summer is sure seems like it's a long way away, but I know as a parent, we start planning pretty early. There's a lot of programs, there's a lot of demand, and trying to figure out every week for each of my two children requires a Gantt chart and some serious analysis.
Yeah.
You're working on providing availability for thousands of kids, so I'm sure you've already started thinking about the summer. What should we be looking forward to?
So kind of like what you just said, as soon as summer ends for us, we start planning the next summer. So summer registration right now is slated to open up in January, if all goes well. But we are looking at that. We're continuing to improve that program as much as we can. And one of the big things you're going to see, or the public's going to see this year, is an expansion of the camp day. Right now we're running 8:30 to 3, and we're recognizing very quickly that, the work day is not 8:30 to 3 for parents. And there's definitely a childcare aspect to camp just as much as a fun aspect to camp. And we embrace both of that. So we will be expanding the camp day, both with our summer day camps as well as our nature camps that we do. So there will be an extended day, at minimum until 4 o'clock, and we're looking to expand beyond that. So we're hoping that that's going to capture and kind of provide a more affordable, more accessible program to much more people in the town of Brookline. So we think that's a pretty big step to take, and we're hoping that's going to pay off for sure. But beyond that, we're gonna stay consistent with our programming. It's served us well, just an incredible mix of really traditional camp programming of arts and crafts and sports and creative play, just as much as we do field trips and entertainers and things like that week to week. So still packed out with nothing but fun and areas of development for all of our kids that attend, but for sure expanding that day in hopes to help our parents and help that working group of guardians.
Love it. I know that in addition to BREC, that there are sort of private or third party camps in the past that are using Brookline real estate, Brookline Fields, right? So Viking Sports is one that my children have loved, and I'm a big fan of Viking Sports, in part because they're available week to week. So they're the glue. Your kid wants to go to this really great 3 week camp in Sharon, and then there's this sports camp, but it starts 2 weeks after the other one ends. And how are you going to put it together? Viking is certainly a tool there. Should we expect more of that? Is there going to be a continuation of those sorts of programs as well?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I think we rely on our vendor programs such as Viking to kind of fill those gaps for us because we know there's populations that just want to do sports. Kids just love sports, so vendors like Viking can provide that. But we also recognize that there's kids who have no interest in sports and no interest in kind of that day camp feel. So we'll continue, and we plan on expanding our vendor programs with things like Lego engineering. We did public speaking weeks, creative writing weeks, trying to capture as many corners, I would say, of the market, but of our town as possible to make sure that, we're not just focusing on the mainstream and we're making sure we have as much opportunities for everybody as possible.
Now, I can't speak for others, but I know I would find a week off in August to go to like an adult sports camp, like, or maybe just, I don't really need to do the arts and crafts, but like an 8 to 6, maybe an 8 to 3, Monday to Friday for adults. Any conversation about an adult summer camp?
I would love to have the conversation. So,
I would participate. I think that'd be amazing. Um, I just thought of it, but geez, why not? Why wouldn't I want to go to summer camp?
just
Um,
get your boss to sign off on it. That'd be fine.
well, yeah, August, the
There you
legislature's
go.
on vacation.
There you go.
Um, the Crane Aquatic Center
Mhm.
and the Tappan Gym had a renovation. Anyone who's been inside now goes in the lobby, and it's a little more open, and it feels more inviting. Um, how's all of that working out, and has that changed any programming?
It's working out great. I mean, it's still a work in progress, just like all of our facilities. I mean, Tappan specifically, which is our gym facility over on the campus of the high school, we gained some program space over there. So a lot of our vendor programs and summer programs actually take place in Tappan, which is great. Our teen programs, our raft program is making a comeback this season, and that's mainly focused over in Tappan. So having that extra space and that clean space and that renovated area over there has been tremendous. As you know, it's always been one of our most used facilities, and it continues to grow with that. And same with the pool. I mean, we love our aquatic center. The renovations that were done to kind of help the exposure and the access to that have been great. We are still doing more renovations and more work on that. We'll be addressing the dehumidification system. If you feel some days in the pool, it's super hot out on the deck. So we're looking to make sure that temperature control is there. So we'll most likely be embarking in that in the spring with not much interference to the public's use, which is great. But overall, those facilities continue to serve thousands, absolutely thousands of visits a year. I think we were just doing the numbers, and we had between 20 and 30,000 visits to our pool, last year. So just looking to maintain and increase that the best we can through open swim, open activities, just as much as planned activities.
Now, because so many of your programs are seasonal, are one day a week, there's lots of different varieties for different people. My guess is there are loads of employment opportunities, particularly for young people. I'm thinking referees and officials, but I'm sure there's so much more than that. Can you share with us what some of those opportunities might be, qualifications, and how young viewers might go about applying for the job?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that question. Like you said, it's seasonal. We're looking for as much help as we can, I think, year round. Right now, where we are now in November, we're stocking up our rink with our part-time employees, looking for skate guards on the ice just as much as individuals working inside the warming hut, controlling crowds and working with visitors. In the summertime, obviously, we're looking for camp counselors, lead counselors, camp directors. Our recreation therapist is always looking for part-time staff doing our therapy programs. Jake, our sports coordinator, is always like you said, referees throughout all of his sports, and just as much as our events coordinator is always looking for part-timers to assist year round with the community events. So if you're interested, as always, Brookline's human resource page online, everything's always listed there. So if anyone is interested, 15, 16-year-olds as your first job, we're here for you. We're here to take you and help you develop the skills that you need to be successful in the roles, but also prepare you for one of the things we like to think is we take a lot of individuals as their first time job, and we can teach them and prepare them for higher roles within our system, but also giving them the skills to expand and move beyond as they grow and mature. But any facet of recreation you can think of, we need help with, just because of the amount of programs and the amount of space and the amount of time we're responsible for. So, reach out to the department directly, go online for the town of Brookline. We're happy to talk to anybody.
The golf course, is that under your domain?
Yes, it is.
I have been spending a little bit of time there lately. We just had Harvest Fest
You
down
did.
at the golf course. I think it's going to need more promotion and more excitement. More people are going to learn about it. I thought it was great. I had a great time. I appreciated the vendors. The farmers market was there. Allendale Farms was there, rather. And I thought it was great. Are there plans for bigger, better, more things like Harvest Fest, Brookline Day, right? These sort of town events?
Yeah, definitely. We actually just had a staff meeting this week, specifically thinking about the golf course, and their intention is to do at least one community event at the golf course, specifically a season. So we're hoping that there'll be an increase in that exposure of welcoming non-golfers onto this course, to this gorgeous piece of open space rec land that we have, to kind of experience some unique experiences like Harvest Fest, where there was, like you said, live music and vendors, kids activities, and mini golf and things of that nature on a gorgeous day. Brookline Day, as always, is expanding our summer concert series. We're looking, to continue and hopefully expand those crowds throughout the summer. But we actually have a full-time coordinator in-house who's in charge of community events. So I know that he's working on some things right now. I don't want to say anything public to hold him to the fire, but he is always looking to expand and introduce some new programs for the community, working with our community groups. And that means working with other departments just as much as working with the Chamber of Commerce or the Coolidge Merchants Association, or any of our groups are excellent groups that we have in town. So yes, you're most likely going to see the return of our usual staples, but it's our hope that we're going to fill in those gaps as well with some new experiences for everybody.
One, I will say that Harvest Fest had like a beer garden
Yeah.
with a vendor. I hope that the town continues to experiment with things like that, with regional vendors, with local vendors. There are plenty of adults
Yep.
who want to socialize, who want to be part of community, who want to be in person. And it doesn't have to be playing rec soccer, right? That can just be enjoying each other and their conversation, much as I have enjoyed our conversation today. Tim Davis, Brookfield, Connecticut native, just like me. He's serving as the Director of Recreation for the town of Brookline. Tim, we're so glad to have you. We're thankful for the time you spent with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Brookline Interactive Group here, TV on TV with me, Tommy Vitolo. No doubt we will see you next week.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's one.